Let's say I gave you one question that you can ask somebody and change their entire life. Now, let's say I gave you 12 of them. Welcome back, and if you're new, my name is Bennett Schwartz, and I'm a high-performance coach. I work with people both personally and professionally, so if you're looking to live a richer life, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Over the past couple of years, I've been coaching different people in so many different areas, and I've been reading lots of books, watching lots of videos, and I've compiled lists of certain questions that I just love to ask my clients. And today, I'm going to share with you 12 of those questions that you can use, whether you're a coach, a mentor, or just somebody's friend. So let's get into it. The first category of questions we're going to talk about are opener questions, meaning you're about to have a conversation with somebody, and what is that question that you can ask somebody to start that engagement into that flow about what it is you really want to be able to get down to. And this first question comes from Dan Sullivan, and the question goes, if you had a magic wand to change one thing, what would that one thing be? You see, many times people don't really know what it is that they want to be changing. But if you give them a hypothetical magic wand, they start to get curious about, hey, you know what? What is it that I like to do? What is it that I would like to change? And what's interesting is that so many people don't even ask themselves those questions. And many times when I start with a client, I'll ask them a question and the response is, I don't know. And I always tell them, there's a reason you don't know, because you never had to think about it. And what this question does is it gives us a real power in terms of what it is we can start to do to think about, hey, you know what? If I could change one thing, what would that one thing be? Would it be my confidence? Would it be my self-esteem? Would it be a certain skill like sales or marketing that I want to start to work on? Or maybe just a relationship? Because so many times if we can start to change one discipline, what ends up happening is it starts to overflow in so many different areas of our life. So trying to get down to the one thing that you could start to work on can be something that could be really helpful to get things moving. This second question we can ask comes from a man named Rich Litvin. He wrote a really popular book called The Prosperous Coach, which is something that I highly recommend every coach to read. I know it's really expensive, but at the end of the day, it's really worth the money. You see, many times when Rich Litvin starts coaching with somebody and they don't really know where they want to be going and the questions that they really want to be asking on the surface level, he has to try to get down to the center and the core of what it is that they really want. And he uses this cool technique and he builds a scenario where he says, if we're talking in 3 years from now and you're living your ideal life, your dream life that you always thought was possible, but you just didn't know how to get there, and I pick up the phone and I call you, and we're reflecting on the conversation that we're having today, what would have been that number one insight that you would have gotten during that conversation that started to shift everything? And I think it's a really, really powerful question because so many times we can imagine ourselves in the future about having the finances, the family, the health that we really want. And many times it comes back down to one thing. And by speaking to a coach, you could really have that powerful insight that can start to change everything for you. So when Rich asks that question, what he's really trying to do is he's trying to get to the core about what it is that you want to be shifting, what it is that you want to be changing. And many times you see the client start to respond by saying something deep or something is really personal to them that they really want to start to shift. Many times it's a belief or a certain fear that they might have. And we as a coach can start to ask those questions and start to bring that out of them. What ends up happening is we're able to start changing and we can start to work on that process of getting to where it is we want to be going by starting with something that is really meaningful to them. The third question you can ask somebody when they get on a call, and this would be for somebody who maybe you don't really know and they maybe booked a call with you. And the way you frame the question is you booked this call and you thought that there was something interesting about it. Why didn't you book it? And we have to realize that there's a reason why somebody booked the call. Alex Hormozi talks about that a client is most ready to buy something when they're initially contacted. And the reason why is because the pain that they have that they're going through caused them to reach out. So if we can understand that about this, when somebody books a call with us or somebody comes over to us to ask our opinion about something, if we could ask them why they even wanted to book the call with us, it can really start to get the ball moving in terms of what it is that they're interested in. On the surface level, they might say, oh, because it was a free call and I just wanted to see it, or I just wanted to really experience something. And you could then respond by saying that their time is really valuable and there must be a deeper reason of why they wanted to book this call. And if you could start to get to that reason, we could start to see the insights that we really want. The second category of questions are going to be questions that we can ask to keep the conversation going. You see, so many times people need that space. They need to have somebody like a coach to come and bring the ideas out of them. And if we can use certain questions to really help them get clarity in terms of what it is that they want, we can start to see that. And the first question in this category is, tell me more. You see, it sounds so simple, but when somebody gets on a call and they start to open up, they start to tell you everything that's on their mind. And if you could just give them that space and say, tell me more, so many times they'll continue to get things out. And for them to continue to get things out, they're gonna be able to get to the core issue of what's really going on. There's usually an underlying problem that's happening, and when people start to talk, they're really just staying on that top level. And we want to get to the depth of it, and by asking them to tell you more, what ends up happening is that they just keep speaking feeling and they keep getting closer and closer to that point that they really want to talk to you about. The second question is a little similar, but just as powerful, and it's only 2 words: what else? You see, many times people will be going through lots of different things and they'll give you a whole list, but what they're really missing, the thing that they really need, is just on the other side of the next thing they're about to say. And if they start to give you their whole list and you could just respond to them and say, what else? Many times they're going to pull out what it is, the one thing that they really need to be hearing. What is the one thing that they really need to say in order for them to hear themselves talk about it? And if we could just ask that question of what else, it could be such a powerful transformation for what's on the other side of what they're not saying. The third question in this category that you can start to ask somebody is, what are you not telling me? Sometimes we have an instinct that somebody's talking and talking and talking and they're really beating around the bush. And sometimes as a coach, you need to be a little bit bold and need to ask them, what are you not telling me? And by asking that, what ends up happening is that there'll usually be some type of pause, and they'll usually start to really think about what it is that's really bothering them, that they really want to get out. And this is where I'm going to ask you for a big favor. If you got any value out of this video so far, make sure to hit the subscribe button. So if you can go back and ask somebody, what are you not telling me? It gets them to really think about the thing that they're not saying. As a coach, we need to be courageous sometimes and ask the question that maybe we don't want to ask, or say the thing that we don't want to say. But if we can start getting comfortable with it and ask somebody what they're not telling you, that could be something really powerful to help them have that breakthrough. The fourth question you can ask somebody when it comes to continuing a conversation, and this is really when they ask you for your own opinion. You see, as a coach, our job is not necessarily to give our opinion. Our job is to bring out of the client what it is that they want. As a coach, I really know that you know the answers and the things that you need to be doing. You know your life the best. So if a client's asking you your opinion on something, a really powerful line is, before I tell you what I'm going to say, what do you think? And what that does is it gives permission to our clients to say the thing that they want. They feel a little less pressurized because they know you're going to say your opinion. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what your opinion is, because once they say what they already really want, you could go down that hole of trying to figure out why it is they were so scared to actually say that. It's a really powerful question, and I got that from my coach who kept using that on me, and I realized I need to put that in my tool belt. And the final question with this middle category of how to keep things going is really how to close that loop. You see, so many times at the end of a conversation, at the end of a coaching call, you'll have so many different insights and so many different things that you've covered. And what you really want to do is you want to ask them for their takeaways. And by asking them for their takeaways, you end up solidifying what it is that you really got out of the call. Because there was one time I was speaking to somebody on a coaching call, and to be honest, there wasn't really any big ideas that I personally got out of it as the coach. But I wanted to make sure and see what the other person was feeling. And when they told me that they had the biggest breakthrough by just making a schedule and giving themselves a deadline, I really saw the power of that question. Because so many times we as a coach come in with one insight, but for the other person, they might have a bigger insight that's more meaningful to them. We can get them to say it, and we can get them to understand what's going on. That could be something that could be really, really powerful in terms of what it is we can start to do in order to be able to close that loop and to get as much out of the session as possible. The third category are going to be the ninja moves that you need to know as a coach. You see, so many times you get put into a situation as a coach and you just don't know what to do. So here are a couple ideas that you can start to use. One of my favorite questions that I love asking when somebody tells me that they don't know, and I get that a lot when it comes to people who are a little indecisive or just trying to figure out a career, I ask them the simple question, what if you did know? And sometimes they'll look back at me and they'll say, I just told you I don't know. And I frame it by saying, no, I know you don't know, but if you did know, what would you say? And so many times they sit back in their chair and they start to think about it, and then they end up giving me their answer. And every time I start cracking up inside, because I know that the person really knows what it is that they want. They just need that permission to allow themselves to say it. There could be certain fears, and it doesn't mean 100% that they're going to make that decision. But many times if somebody tells you that they don't know, if you challenge them and ask them, what if they did know? It could be something that can be really helpful to be able to pull that out of them. Another ninja move you can ask somebody, and I would use this in a place where they're sort of backed into a corner and they know that there's something really big that's going to come out. And what we want to do is we want to ask them, can I be honest with you and tell you something? And if you give it that little pause, what ends up happening is they start to think about what it is you're about to say. And many times they will know exactly what they need to hear. So whether you have something to say or whether you don't have something to say, ask them, what did you think I was going to say? And by asking them that question, what ends up happening is that they come up with the answers themselves. Because so many times if you would ask yourself, what are you really scared of? And somebody would say, I know what you're scared of. And you might start to think about all the possible things that you're scared of. And what ends up happening is it usually comes to the top of your mind and you know exactly what you might be scared of. It's a really powerful tool, and if you could use it at the right time, it could be something that could be really life-changing. Another tool that you can use when it comes to just coaching in general, if the conversation starts to get awkward and silent a little bit, understand that what we need to start to do is we need to ask open-ended questions. And the reason why we speak about open-ended questions is because it gives the conversation conversation more flavor and allows the conversation to keep going. And the trick to ask an open-ended question is just start the question with the word what. So instead of asking somebody, do you like pizza, which is a yes or no answer, ask them, what pizza do you like? And then they'll have to give you an example, which could then build off the next time. And if we could start to get good at asking open-ended questions, that could be something that could really help just keep the conversation going until it picks back up. So if you ever get stuck, make sure to start the question with the word what. And the final tip that you can start to use when it comes to coaching is something that you really have to practice. But at the end of the day, when there is silence in a conversation, not the awkward silence like whose turn is it to speak, but the type of silence when a client is going through and they're thinking about something in their mind, we have to understand that we just have to keep our mouth shut. So many times the power and the insights come from the moments that nobody's speaking. And if we could start to understand that and really just bite our tongue, we're going to see our clients shifting like nobody's business. In the beginning, it might feel really uncomfortable because they're the ones thinking and you don't know when to proceed, but really follow their lead. You shouldn't be the one to break the silence and just wait for them to be ready. I know whenever it happens with me and my coaches, I always get the biggest insights during those silent times. So make sure to hold yourself back if you find your client quiet and really thinking about what's going on. So there you have it. Those are the 12 different questionings that you can start to use to really have that transformative coaching experience. But like I said, whether you're a coach, whether you're a parent, or just a good friend, it's really powerful to be able to have a tool that you can use to really bring out the best in the other person. We're all looking to help somebody else. And if you could just learn a specific tool that can do that for somebody, imagine the impact that you can have. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like this video, make sure to check out this next one.